Now the team has to galvanize and play like they haven't played this year.
He doesn't really have a weakness when you watch him. He's athletic. He's big in size. He's a really good route runner, really good in space.
There's another opportunity for the Raider Nation. The Black Hole's been great everywhere we've been, home and away. Raider Nation's always loud.
I want people in the locker room who are ready to fight for what it means to be a Raider.
Welcome to Raiders Rundown. I'm JT, fresh back from South Beach, Miami. Raiders lost another tough one against the Dolphins. We got a jam-packed show, as we always do. If you're watching on the Raiders YouTube channel, you're listening on Raider Nation Radio, we're going to be busy. The head coach will join us live here coming up in about 20 minutes. Levi Edwards, an insider, will join us. And we begin with Lincoln Kennedy, the man on planet Earth who wants to beat Denver more than anybody I've ever known. How are you, Lincoln?
Wonderful, JT. That goes for the Chargers, the Broncos, the Chiefs. You know, I want to beat everybody as much as possible.
Yeah,
how are you, bud?
Good, my friend. It was great to see you in Miami. There's just more video and B-roll of you against Denver, if you know what I'm talking about. It's easy to Google
Certainly.
you against Denver, but let's get back to Miami and some of the things you saw as Norv Turner now is helping out his son Scott. I thought from sitting in the stands to being in the booth with you, the spacing was better, the protection was better, and more importantly, the pace of the game. I just think the offense looked clearly better than the last couple of weeks.
Well, one thing they definitely did is they did communicate a lot better, JT, this last game, and I think it shows what Scott Turner, Norv Turner, and AP and these guys, the coaches, are trying to get across. The fact is that especially in the run game, communication is paramount, and we've seen them play a little bit better. The problem ultimately becomes, JT, is so far into the season, having undergone so many changes, having to deal with so many injuries and so many of the normal intangibles that most coaching staff deal with on a regular, really slows you down as far as the pace of, making up for lost ground. So we'll see how they're able to do against Denver. Hopefully a little bit better performance. But you know what? They did show some good things. I thought the offensive line played a little bit better in protection-wise. And even though Miami was very vanilla with their rushing, didn't really blitz a lot. When they did, it did make some trouble for the Raiders, but didn't really blitz a lot. And I thought that they were more afraid of the possibility of yards after the catch. Even though Miami's got a good defense, they've been a little bit susceptible to receivers' yards after the catch, and so on, what they've seen so far prior to the Raiders game.
Well, Brock Bowers had not only one of the greatest rookie games in Raiders history, NFL history. I mean, what's happening here, Lincoln?
Right.
And again, we know the record and how troubling the season has been, but for you being a broadcaster this long and calling games with some of the greats and to see the players out there, this is special. What he's doing now is unique. He's fantastic. He's the ultimate teammate. And the Raiders got to be really happy. We'll get into quarterbacks later on, but to have him in this organization for years to come, he's super special, and they went to him heavy down in Fort Lauderdale, Miami/South Beach, right there at Hard Rock. I love the targets. I love the receptions.
You know what? If Scott Turner didn't go to him religiously or regularly in Miami, he would have been cussed out by the nation. There's no doubt about it. Everybody has been gunning for Brock Bowers to have a bigger part in the offensive output. And it's proper. It's the reason why they drafted him where they drafted him. The fact is that he presents such an uneven challenge for safeties, linebackers, because of his size, his speed, his route running ability. Hell, I even saw a couple plays in a Miami game where Jalen Ramsey was covering him. That's their best corner in Miami, all-pro corner. So that shows you they got a lot of respect for him. But there's a whole lot of opportunities, JT, and I know we talked about this before, with the slot and tight end in this game because there's so much space that's allowed. And most of these defenses play wide to in, not necessarily in to out. There's a lot of opportunities for slot receivers and tight ends to get open on the second level.
Well, this rivalry has meant a lot. I mentioned to you in this organization, and the Raiders had an 8-game winning streak that was just broken in Denver in a game that they could have went up to 17-3. Bo Nix did not play great in that game, but Lincoln, the way he's playing now, it is night and day since that game in Denver and now coming up to Allegiant on Sunday. His stats are through the roof, and Brock Bowers' stats are through the roof. These are the two front runners for Rookie of the Year. Normally that goes to a quarterback, and he's playing well, but we're looking at these numbers here. It's pretty incredible to see what's happening. And for Brock Bowers in September, 60% now to 69%. Passing yards per game, 230, up from 165. He had a touchdown and 4 picks. Now, as we look at October October through November, 13 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. As you are researching this game coming up and look at the tape, what have you noticed with Brock Bowers' improvement?
He's gotten more and more comfortable with Sean Payton's offense and what Sean Payton wants them to do with the football. And more importantly, he's been doing a good job at taking care of the football, something he really wasn't doing as successfully earlier in the season. So I think that shows growth. Look, I had the utmost respect for Bo Nix. When I covered him doing college football back at Oregon, I thought he was a tremendous player. And because all those years of playing quarterback, all that experience, he really had his learning licks taken care of. He's got those pretty much out of the way. He stepped in ready to play. And heck, I thought if he would have fallen to the Raiders, it might have been something for a conversation piece. But it is what it is. So now he's on the Broncos. They are blessed with a good defense that can play lights out when they want to. They can get pressure on the quarterback. And more importantly, they can rush with only 4 and stuff like that. But they play a very similar defense, run-style defense, run-stopping defense that the Raiders plot, where they put 5 D linemen, and they cover up all the 5 offensive linemen, and then it just becomes one-on-one. Once you get past the line of scrimmage, just like with the Raiders, you can have big runs. And that's the reason, in all honesty, JT, the Raiders were successful for those 8 games when they had the winning streak. They were able to run the football. They were able to dictate things to Denver Broncos. And, of course, with Russell Wilson back then he was making his own mistakes. But when it comes to Bo Nix, he's cut down the mistakes pretty dramatically.
Lincoln, let's transition to the Raiders' defensive secondary. And when the Raiders had an opportunity to get the ball back, there was a costly pass interference and then a missed assignment on a broken play. At that time on the field, Nate Hobbs wasn't there. Obviously, he was out. Jacorian got hurt. He was out. And Jack Jones was out late in the fourth quarter there.
Yeah.
Now the secondary and a lot of those players, nothing against them, coming from the practice squad or being reserves, they're thrown into the fire against a pretty good receiving core, and there was a broken play there. Now I'm just worried about it. We don't have the injury report as I'm talking to you now, but that secondary is depleted, and we're going up against a Denver team that's been throwing the ball really good the last couple of weeks.
Tossing the ball around a lot and mainly getting the ball downfield, and it could be cumbersome if you think about it, or trouble-worthy if you think about it. Playing with all these injuries, JT, especially in the secondary. Look, no offense to them, practice squad guys are practice squad guys for a reason. It's not that they're, if they were good enough to be starters, they would be starters on some team, but they're practice squad guys for a reason. And that's the reason why it's really hard to quantify what's going to come next. The Raiders have had trouble in the past couple of games stopping a lot of the run production. But if you took a page out of Miami's game, Miami wasn't looking to stretch the field. They were looking to work within 20 yards of the line of scrimmage, and that's where they did all their work. And they were able to matriculate down the field and eventually get touchdowns, when normally the Raiders' defenses had a bend but don't break sort of concept. They've been able to sort of stand steadfast that time. The Miami Dolphins got touchdowns, and that really put the emphasis and a lot of pressure on the Raiders' offense, who didn't even see the ball that much. It was ball control offense by Miami, short ball control offense that got touchdowns and positive results, and the Raiders couldn't keep up.
Lincoln, the third down defensive stats have plummeted. Absolutely plummeted. And I know why the reason is. Max is going as much as he can. No Christian Wilkins and no Malcolm Kuntz. We get that. They're just not getting anything off the edge. And then you're asking the linebackers to cover in space and some pretty good tight ends along the way. And then you got everybody in the secondary injured almost. So you look at this. What do you think Patrick Graham is dealing with now? Antonio Pierce, the head coach, comes from being a linebacker coach. Patrick Graham is a highly sought-out defensive coordinator. Do you see more zones, conservative umbrellas over the top? Because the middle of the field and third down has been a big problem the last month or two.
It's been a big problem with zone. It's even a bigger problem with man. If you have a team like the Denver Broncos, just like the Miami, they like to run a lot of crossing routes with their speedy receivers. So that really creates a cumbersome moment for man coverage. You have to play more zone. The problem that I've always had with the Raiders zone, it's very soft. It'll give you 4 or 5 yards around the line of scrimmage. You do that twice, it's a first down. So that's where I talked about that bend but don't break concept. So much to your point, playing with a lot of injuries, you got to be creative. Much like Scott Turner has had to be on offense, Patrick Graham's going to have to be extra creative with his defense. Maybe change up and throw some combination zones. I don't know if he has that ability to do it. I've seen coaches in the NFL use a combination of zone man and certain things like that. Show one thing, then go to another. I don't know if they have the wherewithal to do things like that, but you have to be creative to keep these offenses on their heels. You got to give time for your pass pass rush to get to the quarterback. And I know it's been limited. They're capital on Max Crosby. Other guys have got to come up. I like Adam Butler. I like John Jenkins. Heck, I even like Tyree Wilson at sometimes. So the other guys have got to stand up and make those plays.
Yeah, Link, what I think is the big breakdown of this game as we talk about it is what are the Raiders going to do as they threw the ball so many times, a season high in this last game. They can't run it at all. If they think they're going to run it against a defense like that, good luck. This is a really good defense against the run, and they're better, in my opinion, against the pass. So I like opening it up. I don't think the running game's working at all. I know you have to run it a number of times. It's just a question all year. When are they going to bail on the run after attempting to run the ball in the first quarter? If it doesn't happen, you want to stick with it. But if you're trailing by 10 or by more than 2 scores, you got to throw it again. And you throw it against this Denver defense and that secondary with Patrick Surtain and their safeties. They're going to pick a ball off because they're ball hawks. So what do you think should be the general game plan on offense in this game against the Broncos?
Well, I think you got. It's really hard to say because you don't know what you're good at. But I will say this. It's been my experience that I don't like the fact that the NFL is a cookie cutter league, and we'll have another conversation about that another day. But as far as offensive goes, I wish the Raiders were better at draws and screens to help aid them in their offense to slow down proverbial pass rushes. They're not there yet. You still have to stay with it. You still have to try draws. Of course, you're going to open it up. But here's the problem. I've never liked, and this is what just a hit, time to hit on it. I've never liked the fact going through shotgun with uncovered tackles because you make your tackles exposed to turning fast with a lot of the speed that the NFL has. You have uncovered tackles going for shotgun. Those ends, Max Crosby does it all the time. All they're doing is they are angling for where the quarterback is going to be. And when you get interior push, like the Raiders have given up as well, there's nowhere for the quarterback to go. You run over the top, it's a sack. You run up in the hole, it's a sack. You don't have enough time. So I've never been a big fan of exposed. I'd much rather think that you could create an offense to where you're able to take from under the center and go back to the old days where you're able to do it. That way you can assign max protection either with a tight end to your right or a left back to your left, those types of things, rather than going from shotgun. But it is what it is. And until we get to that point to where people are starting to think more freely rather than what other people are doing and say we can do something like that, then that's what you're going to be focused on. But you got to be able to run the football to some extent, JT, because that's the only way you're going to truly open up the middle of the field with your tight ends, Mayer and Brock Bowers.
Well, one last thing. Scott Turner's offense, I was more impressed than I have been at any point in this season, so hopefully the Raiders can build on that. And Michael Mayer came back, and as Michael was doing a lot of the dirty work, we saw the crackback blocks and trying to help that way, got an early look in reception. If they're going to double Brock, and I think they will in this game, and have much more attention on him, I think Michael Mayer should be a go-to guy. I'm talking about 7, 8, 9 targets. He looked healthy. You were on the call with Jason Horowitz. Do you think now they can give him more on his plate in the passing game?
Well, he looked healthy. It's just a point of getting him back in football shape. How many plays can you stay out there for? That's the thing. And more importantly, do you have enough consistency offensive plays? Let's face it. The reason why we haven't been able to showcase some of our talent on offense, JT, is because we haven't had enough plays. Haven't had enough sustainable drives. Haven't had enough, first downs where you can open things up. And I'm thinking the Raiders are getting to that. They showed a lot better in the Miami game, but there's still a long way to go.
Yeah, I think this is an important game for the Raiders. There's a lot of chatter from fans about the future draft. You know me, I'm not doing any of that. I'm talking about game by game. We review a game, we preview a game until the end of the year. But I don't want to see Denver get going in this division, and they are going. And they had a slow start link to this year. There was heat on Sean Payton after week 2. What's going on? Bo Nix looks terrible. Not bad, terrible. And then they fixed it, and they started feasting on easy opponents, and they don't play as good on the road. And we got to protect this house. I know fans are worried about draft picks next year. I get it. But this is Allegiant Stadium. This is the Broncos, and they're coming. And I think the Raiders got to meet them at the gate and say, not in our house. And this could be a big opportunity to slow the roll of the Broncos, get them eventually out of the playoffs, because that's where they're leading to. They win this game, they're one step closer to the playoffs.
JT, you and I have been in this business a long time, and I don't know how you do preseason, but I'm very similar to where I go, and I'll look at the schedule, and I'll say, okay, possible win. I don't think we're there yet. But most of the time when I'm coming through the division, JT, I've always chalked it up as a 50-50.
Yep.
It's a toss-up. It's probably a split. And, of course, if you have the luxury of beating a divisional rival twice, then you put yourself one up in that division, of course, obviously with those wins. But it's always a split. The Raiders haven't won a division game yet. So they need to find a way to get off the schneid if they want to do anything. And, of course, there's also for pride. There's also for everything else. But the Raiders need to find a way to turn around and win games. Because right now, the quickest way that you can lose a locker room, if guys start to doubt themselves that they're going to win a game and don't really want to come to work.
You got to link.
Then it becomes a real bad thing.
Absolutely. We got to run. We'll talk to you. I'll see you out here. Welcome back to Vegas, Lincoln. Looking forward to you.
You got it, brother.
That's
See you
Lincoln
soon.
Kennedy. And as we look at our lineup here, the morning tailgate, Rich Eisen. Then I'm on noon to 2, and then Q Myers from 2 to 5 p.m. When we come back, the head coach will join us. Antonio Pierce will join us live in studio as we continue on. And then we'll have Levi Edwards. Vinny Bonsignore is going to join me in hour number 2. So we got a very busy show today as the Raiders are back here for the first time. It'll be close to 4 weeks coming up here. So the Raiders hopefully get some home cooking at Allegiant Stadium. As we continue from Raiders headquarters on a really nice day. Maybe if you're coming in, you bring us a pullover. It's getting a little bit cooler. It's not 115, 100, or 95 anymore. It should be a great day out at Allegiant Stadium on Sunday. This is Raiders Rundown.
To be a Raider is to be bold, powerful, and loyal.
Once a Raider, always a Raider.
Raider Nation family is authentic, with the heart here in Las Vegas. We are often imitated, but can never be duplicated. Why?
The autumn wind is a Raider.
Because there is only one nation.
Celebrate 65 seasons of Raiders football. Be a part of our legacy with a special edition brick featuring the exclusive 65th anniversary logo. Get your brick installed at Allegiant Stadium along with a replica for your home or office. Order now and support the Raiders Foundation, benefiting military and veterans, wellness initiatives, and youth development. Secure your place in Raiders history today at RaidersFoundationBricks.com.
All right, welcome back to Raiders Rundown. Head coach Antonio Pierce, kind enough to join us. So, Coach, after the Abdullah score, you almost got off the field. There was a pass interference there, and then the miscommunication play. What were you thinking at that time? You had them down within one score. Really good opportunity to win.
Yeah, just like the rest of our team and our bench. You know, everybody, you can see them start to rally back up, get that mojo back there. We're in the game. We got an opportunity. We just needed one more stop, and obviously mishap there with the interception. With the penalty. Then, the blown coverage there with communication. But even with that, I'll say this, and I know it doesn't go for nothing because it's a loss. Mm-hmm. What I see each and every week and every day from this team is a team that's fighting, that's into it, that's staying together, that, I'll be honest, still believe that we got a chance for the road in January.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And we're not going to give up, and they're not giving up, and they're working each and every day as hard as we can. It's just we got to find a way in that third quarter, in the second half now, just to stop having these mishaps, because the game, we go into halftime, is a 6-10 ball game, and we're getting the ball. We feel really good at it. I'm telling you, if you see that locker room, again, it's rocking and rolling, and it's just, we're not doing enough with our details and execution in that third quarter to get us over the hump.
Well, you're really coaching hard in Patrick Graham, because at that point, Jacorian's out, Jack is out, Epps is gone for a long period of time, and you're looking at no Nate Hobbs. So what is that like in preparation, fluid in real time, when you know you got young guys out there, not with a lot of experience, but you got to coach them up?
Yeah, we talk about this even like today. Mm-hmm. If you suit up on game day, you better be ready to play the way the season's going. Yeah. Everybody that's been on the active roster, active on game day, man, you got to be mentally into the game because you never know what's going to happen. Again, we lose JB on the second or third play of the game, Jack late there in the third or so quarter. Now, Sam Webb really had 0 reps in the week of practice, and then you just got to keep going. And at the end of the day, it's professional football. We expect all these gentlemen to prepare as their starter, and we talk about that. Now it's really coming to fruition because we're going to have more injuries coming up as the week goes on.
Let's talk about Scott Norv. I thought the pace was better, the spacing was better, and most importantly, the communication. I was in the stands for part of the game and then up in the booth, and I just looked at the spacing and the way the plays got in and out. It really looked cleaner.
Yeah, very efficient, very efficient. I think the one thing we all wish we had back was those red zone opportunities, right? Because that's really the difference in the ball game, right? Down there twice, we kicked 2 field goals. You want to convert those into touchdowns, obviously. But I thought Scott did a really good job of keeping Gardner calm and very poised and talking to him throughout the game, throughout the series, throughout the play up until the mic got cut off, and just asked him to do exactly what we wanted him to do. And I think for the most part, throughout the game, even with the late interception, which again, just time and the communication between the receiver and quarterback, I thought he did a really good job of managing the game and putting us in position to be competitive in that game for 3.5 quarters.
So that was an easier decision to go with Gardner again, as you made that decision early in the week.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Gardner put us in opportunities to win a game or be competitive in that game. And you got to keep going with it. Again, it's a growing pain. I don't want to have this back and forth with the quarterback stuff. Again, we'll see what happens when Aiden comes back, but Gardner will be the quarterback this week.
Coach, everyone's talking about Brock nationally, and you're talking to us locally, and this goes out nationally. I'd like to ask you for the first time, what is he like during a game? Because we see the highlights and we see everything on SportsCenter and in-house here at Silver and Black Productions, but when you're coming into the tunnel or walking out with him or seeing him in that halftime, what is he like?
Yeah, he has that look of a tiger. You know what I mean? Like he's steely-eyed, he's focused, he's dialed in. There's no BS. There's nothing else he wants to do. I don't even know if he has headphones on half the time, but he's all about ball. He goes in there, he goes in right to his routine and warming up. And then when he hits that grass, he's a different person. That's when his personality, and you can see it more and more, even on the touchdown, right? He has a little dance there, but just the first down signals, he brings a lot of energy, and it's not verbally. It's not vocal. It's his demeanor. It's his presence. And the team is really, we're seeing a star right in front of us being born and being created each and every day. And what I love about it is just I keep going back to it, the physicality that he plays with. I mean, there's one play, he catches just a quick, easy check down, and he goes north. And there's 4 Dolphins there, and he gives it to each and every one of them. You know what I mean? And he gets up, and he's like, he kind of
feeds on it.
He feeds on it, right? He gets him going, and really gets our team going. So obviously, you can see that was one of our main focuses in that game, to get him the ball, get him going, and that's going to be us going forward.
Let's start with Denver's defense. Now with Brock going and Big Mike back, and that probably helped Brock get more targets. You got Jacoby. You're trying to get it to Trey deep. We know that. The running game, we'll touch on that a different time. But with the passing game now, and knowing that Denver's so good on the back end, and you're coming off a game with the most attempts of the year, that becomes an interesting chess match.
No, it does. And then you got to be smart with Pat Surtain over there, right? Really good football player. Obviously, he changed the game last time we played him. But we do like our matchups, especially underneath. You look at the secondary, okay, I get the corners, but we do got some matchups we like with the linebackers and the safeties with our skill guys, right? And you talk about Brock and Big Mike underneath. And if we can't get the ball to Trey deep, right, if they're taking that away or we can't get there, then we got to find other ways to do that. And that's something that we're constantly, Scott and Norv and them guys down in the building downstairs are working on tremendously as far as just building that up with Trey Tucker. But what I like to see and what I really like what we're doing is just how we're spreading the ball around, right? And again, it's going to Brock. But outside that, I mean, different targets throughout. I think finding different ways to get our backs involved will be something special for this game as well. We did a good job early in that game, the first quarter and a half, of moving the ball 3 series down there into, obviously 10-3 ball game. The ball's at the 4-yard line. So we want to have that same mindset, be aggressive, and obviously, I know we didn't hit on it, but the running game. We keep saying, man, we keep pounding. We got to keep going. And obviously, the game got to play out for us that way, too. We need to keep it close. And I think if we could do that and keep our defense fresh, that'll help us out.
Wrapping it up, what have you seen with Bo Nix? It's night and day, statistically, from the first 2 to 3 weeks to what he's done the last 4 or 5 games. And it seems like Sean Payton has got him completely locked in with his staff.
Well, we were talking off the air. He's a winner.
Yeah.
He's won as a freshman. He's won as a 6-year senior. He's coming to this one. He run the role as a rookie quarterback, and early on you can see Sean really all right, let me keep him tight to me. And now he's letting him go, and he's making checks. He's making the throws down the field. He's being creative. He's using his legs. He's buying time. He's really comfortable. You can see in this system, and I think Sean has a lot of confidence in him with some of the calls and the shots that they're taking. So he's done a good job, 1, winning games, and 2, he's taking care of the football, which is really key for a rookie.
But it's different when Max Crosby's coming off the edge.
That part.
And when you look at your defensive line in a game like this, you're home for the first time in a month. I mean, this is a big deal for the fans, as we always wrap it up with that. But Max and the ability to really put him in a position where he's uncomfortable playing his first time here after beating the Raiders in that first game in Denver.
Yeah, then you remember in that first game, Christian Wilkins had a really big game in that game as well. So we don't have him. We need somebody else to step up. Tyree Wilson now. The last couple of weeks, just, I know the stats showed up last week with the sack, but he's been doing good each and every week. We've seen the progression. We've seen him getting better, getting his feet on it, seen it get off. getting closer and closer to the quarterback, but we know they're going to count for Max. And we've seen that each and every week now. Sliding to him, a chip, a tight end, whatever it may be from a scheme standpoint. And that's where you need other guys to step up. And I think also for our coordinator and our defense, just to scheme up things to get other guys free in the blitzes. So hopefully we get that going. But you're right. I'm excited to be back home. It seems like we haven't been home in that stadium in a while, man. And listen, our fans, just like we always talk about, even when we were down in Miami, they're rocking and rolling. And I expect this place come Sunday to be rocking and rolling just as well.
And, Coach, last one, you've been a winner your whole life. You live to win. And these fans know that. So it's been a struggle here on this losing streak to turn it around at home and get that energy going again, because heading into the holiday, Raider fans who have tickets here at Allegiant Stadium, they want to win, and I know how much you do too.
No doubt. Listen, it doesn't matter just about my winning background. I mean, I want to win for the organization. I want to win for it. I want our team to feel what it feels like to win. It's been a long time, and we've been close. We've missed opportunities, and it's time. And I keep telling guys, it's time, man. Just keep improving, work, trust in the process, be a professional, go in there and give it our all, bring that energy, bring that passion, and bring it the Raider way. And that's what, hopefully it's physicality, everything we always talk about. We need to come to fruition at home Sunday.
Good luck, Coach. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. There he is, head coach Antonio Pierce. We'll let him roll as we are live here on Raiders Rundown, and we'll continue. Coach heads downstairs and meets the media there, so we always greatly appreciate his opportunity to come up here and talk to us exclusively as we take a look at our Raider Nation radio lineup, the morning tailgate. Vinny Bonsignor, who will join me next hour, the Rich Eisen Show with Vinny. It's Clay Baker and Vince Sapienza. We're here every day, noon to 2. And I'm going to plug my YouTube channel, JT the Brick YT, and then Q Myers, who's in the building every day. Q Myers with Unnecessary Roughness. So we got a lot going on here today. That is fluid. We're excited to be here, and we're pumped up about the opportunity to speak to the coach. And just let me tell you quickly, in that conversation, I want to spend a few minutes with it. I talk to Coach once a week. I see him in the building randomly. I'm not here every day, but I try to be here a lot. And the guy wants to win. And if you go back to his Super Bowl victory as a player for the Giants and the impact that he had, and then his life, he told me before he came in here, he's never had a losing record going back to this record, type of record, since Pop Warner. He didn't have one. He is wired to win. Wired to win. And the Broncos are just different. From covering the Raiders this long, and I kind of like having fun looking at the rivalries. I think that's a pretty big deal overall. And who's the Raiders' biggest rivalry of all time? It's a tough question because now it's split between Kansas City and Denver. It's not the Chargers because the Chargers have never won anything. And the Chargers are doing well now, tip of the cap. Jim Harbaugh's there. Maybe in the future they put themselves in winning opportunities. The Chargers have never won anything. And Kansas City didn't win anything for over 50 years. They didn't win anything. And now Kansas City's the best team in football, and they're a current dynasty. And if they win this year, they have an opportunity to be the greatest team, arguably, of all time. So I believe when you rank the Raider rivalries, I rank it Kansas City 1, Denver 2. And what saved Denver was Peyton Manning. I mean, Denver was just wallowing, doing nothing after Elway. Then they get Peyton Manning, and look what it's done. 2 Super Bowl appearances. They win one. Now they have Bo Nix, who I'm not going to say I didn't think Bo Nix would be this good this early. But some of the numbers are a little bit skewed on him. He's better at home than on the road. He's night and day on the road than he is at home. But Sean Payton and his staff have done a really good job. We all know the Chargers are coming. Chargers got a really good coach in Jim Harbaugh, and I think an elite quarterback in Justin Herbert. And they're only going to get better. They're not going to get worse. They're going to get better. So it's the job of the Raiders to finish out this season under adversity, to find out who's going to be here long term. There's going to be new players coming in. There's going to be big decisions that are made in the offseason. But the Raiders have a job to do, and that is to beat the Denver Broncos. And this glorious building that I'm in, world headquarters here with the weight rooms, the saunas, the hot cold tubs, you got the meal room, everything that's here. It's all built for the players to be playing at an elite level. So there's never an excuse from me, ever. Excuses die, the record stands. I've been saying that my whole life from my dad. But this team is decimated by injuries. And normally with a record like this, near the end of the year, and there's still a lot of football left, we're not even in Thanksgiving, you start playing younger players. That ship has sailed. Young players are playing now because of injury. The depth is a really big issue now for Tom Telesco. As they're signing players to the practice squad, we'll get into that, and they're trying to improve the roster for the end of the year. And normally, this only happens a few times every 50 years when you have a record like this. Younger players get an opportunity to play. either due to injury or the fact that they just want to see how they play, and this will be a good test at Allegiant Stadium coming up on Sunday. Remember, it was really fun when the Raiders beat the Broncos 8 in a row. And I'll tell you this before we come back with Levi Edwards, Denver's never won in Las Vegas. And I'm going to be hosting that pregame show, and that's going to be my show, to hold Denver back and slow them down a bit, and hopefully the Raiders play well at home. Raiders Rundown continues on the Raiders YouTube channel, and you can catch it everywhere on Raiders.com. Celebrate the season Raiders style. Enchant Christmas is the award-winning holiday light maze experience featuring larger-than-life light sculptures, ice skating, and other festive attractions. And the Raiders are excited to partner with Enchant Christmas for Silver and Black Giving Back, a one-night-only fundraising event on December 3rd at the Las Vegas ballpark. Fans can meet Raider Rusher, the Raiderettes, and join a scavenger hunt for a chance to win epic Raider prizes. Proceeds benefit the Raiders Foundation, supporting military, veterans, wellness, and youth programs. Find the scavenger hunt official rules and get your tickets today at Raiders.com/enchant. Welcome back to Raiders Rundown. Raiders.com is your home for all things silver and black. Read Rachel Gosson's Week 12 game preview, which gives the details you need to know about the matchup against Denver. Game preview is uploaded weekly and provides insight and analysis into the Raiders' weekly matchup. Visit Raiders.com/news. All right, welcome back, everybody. Levi Edwards joins us from our digital team. What a great writer, and it was good to see you down in South Florida. Even though the Raiders got a loss, it was good to get out on the road a little bit and see Raider Nation in that part of the country.
Most definitely, and it's Raider Nation spreads worldwide. I've met fans from all over the world, whether it's South America or in London, and so for all of them to be able to go cross country to come to Miami and really be that present, not only just around the streets of Fort Lauderdale and Miami, but in the stadium, in Hard Rock Stadium. It was really good to see how big of a turnout it was for it being so far to Las Vegas.
Yeah, I thought it was outstanding. I like that stadium. I like the sight lines. I think the fans, any seat in that building was great. And the fans were on their feet because the Raiders made it a one-possession game late. I mean, some things really went badly for them on the broken play, the miscommunication, the pass interference. We spent a lot of the time this hour talking about this. I don't do shoulda, coulda radio TV, but man, I wanted to see Gardner get the ball back with 3+ minutes to go and some timeouts the way Brock Bowers was playing to have an opportunity to win.
Of course, that's what we would all like to see, especially with the fact that the Raiders could have put a couple more points on the board because they had those 2 trips to the red zone earlier in the game, and they had to convert on field goals. But down the stretch, as they were getting back into the red zone on those last couple of possessions, they were able to find Brock for the touchdown. They were able to find Amir for the touchdown. So them getting into the end zone, them getting a groove with the play calling, you could see things were starting to open up. Unfortunately, with that last touchdown, it kind of was the straw that broke the camel's back, and what happened happened.
Yep. Let's get to Max Crosby versus Mike McGlinchey in this series against Denver. So what have you seen in the past with both these players? Because Max needs some help. I mean, Max needs some help, and we talked to Coach about Tyree Wilson coming off a game with the sack. The interior with Butler's been pretty good this year, but this is a better offensive line for Denver, and it's getting better and better with more confidence as Bo Nix is playing better.
Exactly, and it really is about health. The last time the Raiders faced the Broncos earlier this season, it was with a banged-up offensive line, and now they're starting to get back to full health. Mike McGlinchey is a guy who did not play the last 2 games that the Raiders have played the Broncos, and now he's going to be at that right tackle position. He's someone that's lined up against Max Crosby numerous of times, whether it was with Denver in 2023 or whether it was with the San Francisco 49ers. So whenever the two have matched up, there have been some good matchups, but however, Max Crosby, the last time he faced Mike McGlinchey, He got a sack, 2 quarterback hits. Really had a dominant game. That Week 1 game in 2023 against Michael McGlinchey, it was a really great performance. Really, anytime Max has played Denver over the years, he's just really gone above and beyond of what he can be as a player. So I expect it to be another good matchup, especially with Bo Nix starting to get a lot more comfortable in that pocket. And really just a Denver team that's really fundamentally sound, always really on top of what they're supposed to do, good coaching.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that about Max Crosby. He's played great against Denver. You want to match up against the division and have big games against the Chargers. Kansas City's the marquee game, but there's just something about Max against Denver. And I think Sean Payton's very concerned about Max. I'll go out, I'm not going out on a limb. The chance that the Raiders have to win this game is Max. We say this every week. It's a team effort. I get it. Quarterback play's got to be better. They're struggling running the ball. But Max is a game wrecker against Denver. And this Bo Nix, his numbers skew very differently away from Denver when he's on the road. So I think Max is going to have a 2+ sack game if the Raiders are going to have a chance to win this one.
I 100% agree. And what you were just mentioning, JT, with Tyree Wilson really starting to come into his own. And I spoke with defensive line coach Rob Leonard yesterday, and he really spoke highly about how people don't understand how hard it is for a first-round rookie defensive lineman to come in and really excel out the gate, especially a guy like Tyree Wilson coming off of a foot injury last season. So he's really still coming into his own. He's really starting to become the player that you would hope that he become, which you're starting to see week by week, along with Adam Butler becoming that 3-down defensive tackle that he's really wanted to be throughout his career. And he's talked about it with the media. His coaches have talked about it, about how Adam Butler has really wanted to change the narrative of who he is as a player. And he's doing that week by week, and they're going to have to play well against Max.
Levi Edwards joins us from the digital team. I'm cool spending a lot of time talking about Brock. Being around the team as long as I have, when you have a player that comes in and does something special right out of the gate, Charles Woodson, whoever it is, a high pick, a rookie, I'm talking rookies. This franchise has a proud history of legendary rookies that have come into the greatness of the Raiders, and now we have another one. Very fortunate that the Raiders were able to get him in the draft. And a lot of fans are saying quarterback, quarterback, quarterback. I get it. If the Raiders get a quarterback, would the team look different this year? Would they be grooming him? Probably, but they wouldn't have Brock Bowers. And I like having that chess piece going forward for the next 5 to 10 years, knowing that he's going to be the best player in the league at his position. And in this game against Miami, which we were both at, they knew Brock was in the building, and they couldn't shut him down, and the targets went there. What did you specifically see from Brock in Miami that he can bring to this matchup at home against Denver?
I really looked at a lot of tape, like you said, JT, because this is a guy that had 13 catches. The most catches by a rookie tight end, I believe, in history or since 1960. So that's incredible. I really looked at what happened, and I'm kind of at the point when I watch film and I watch Brock Bowers, it's almost a disservice to call him a tight end, to confine him to the tight end position. This guy, when you watch him play, he's a football player. Whether he's at inline tight end, whether he's blocking, whether he's getting motioned over to outside receiver, whether he's motioning over to be a slot. They even had him on the backfield. He got a pass out of the backfield, caught a pass as a fullback. So where they're able to put him on the field, it just makes him limitless. And it's almost as if, the defense is at the mercy of him, where they can't man up on him because he's too fast and he's really good in open space. And he's also in zone. He has such a good natural feel for where the ball is coming and where he needs to be able to get open. Like I hate to make the comparison, Travis Kelce. Sure. Travis Kelce is one of the best tight ends I've ever seen at finding open space in zone. And Brock Bowers has proven that he can do that as well. He's just really been a great football player.
Yeah, that's nicely said, because when he got drafted, that's the first thing I said. He's not a tight end. He's a slot receiver. He's a wide receiver. He's a tight end, and you line him up in the backfield. And I can't recall ever having a player in the Raiders organization that I was happy to check down to. I'm not into the check down. I want to throw it past the marker. He's the only guy I've seen that if you're 3rd and 8 and you throw it 5 yards, I can live with it. Everybody else, from Devontae, who was here, to Jacoby, who's very good underneath, I want to throw to the marker on 3rd down. I don't want to take a chance on someone getting tackled and the ball coming out. I want to see that. And Brock's different. He knows where the marker is, and as we've talked about it, his acceleration, his ability to slow down and miss a tackle and then accelerate and get to the marker and get out of bounds is exceptional.
With that being said, that's something Luke Steichel, the tight ends coach, he said he was asked, what's something you want to see more of Brock in terms of improving or things of that nature? And he said, not necessarily I want to see him improve in this area, but I really want to see our offense cater more to Brock getting the ball in open space. Because his yards after catch and what he can do when he gets the ball in open space to make guys miss and just run people over is something that we really need more in our offense to really get it moving, pick up first downs. And when you look at the stats, Brock Bowers is, as a rookie tight end, 7th in the league right now in yards after catch. And so he's a guy that, like you said, check down king. Because you know on 3rd and 8, if you dump it off to him and the guy's about 5 yards off of him in open space, he's either going to make a miss or he's going to run through him. And we saw that once or twice in Miami.
We did. All right, Levi Edwards is our guest. I want to get into the Raiders' rushing attack, which is non-existent. I cannot believe this. And it's more than a trend now. It's a fact. They're dead last in rushing. So the coach just told us they're going to continue to try to run the ball. I agree. You got to continue to try, but the issue becomes when do you bail on it? And a lot of times you bail on it if you're down 10 points. If you're down 7, you can still run the ball. This team has proven if they're down more than a score, you got to get out of the running game and you got to go with Brock in the passing game and try to get it done. That being said, now the offensive line's got to look in the mirror and say we're generally healthy, right? Guys are healthier than they've been at every point in time. So now we're going to be able to evaluate everybody on film saying, can you do your job one-on-one against someone across from you? Because in the past, you could say, I have someone new to my right. I have someone new to my left. I'm injured. I'm playing through pain. It's all out the window now. You got the guys who you're going to play with. They're relatively healthy. They've got to play better, Levi. They've got to open up some holes. I just don't know who's going to run through those holes because the running backs have been banged up.
It is definitely a conundrum of sorts.
It is.
In terms of how you're going to get this run game going, because I'm in the same mindset of Antonio in the sense that you cannot entirely abandon the run game. That's just a very, honestly, idiotic thing to do within the landscape of football. And obviously when you're down, you need to pass the ball. But if you can't get the run going, it's just going to make you very predictable as an offense. So you have to mix it up. With that being said, you have to find a way to not only, as the running backs try to figure out how to go through those holes and really do what they got to do, the offensive line really has to step up. And over the past couple of weeks, really good pass blocking team. But the run blocking is still, with JPJ in there and a couple other guys, it's improved, but it's still not where you want to be at. And something interesting that I heard Joe Philbin, who's now our interim offensive line coach, say yesterday is that when he coaches the offensive linemen, he kind of relates it to being in basketball of kind of playing man-on-man defense, which is crazy for an offensive line, but that's really kind of what you're doing. You're playing man-on-man defense. You have one guy in front of you, and you have to be responsible for your one guy and to keep them away from the backfield as much as possible. And as long as you can play your man-on-man defense and keep them away from the guys in the backfield, and it's on them to kind of do their job and kind of beat their opponent. So really, you have to simplify it to 11-on-11 football, and you got to beat your man, which is what I believe the offensive line needs to do.
Yeah, Levi, as we wrap it up, the Broncos have the 5th best run defense in the NFL. They allow the 6th fewest rushing yards per game, and I have a lot of respect for their culture and their secondary when it comes to their pass defense. I don't care who the head coach is. Some teams like Baltimore and the Steelers, for a decade what you're going to see. For close to 20 years, even from the beginning of Peyton Manning or before that up until Sean Payton now, they draft really well in the secondary. They always have a star in the secondary, either a safety player or a corner, and they want you to attack them. I love that because that's the way the Ravens played with Ed Reed and certain defenses play. The Jets tried to do that, and they've been a mess this year, and they're not able to do it. But this team from Denver, they tempt you to throw it, and they don't have to blitz because they have a pretty good defensive line overall. And then you're looking at coverages and you're Gardner Minshew. And if the pocket's breaking down and your head's up and Surtain's on the left side and you throw to the right side, they're equally as good. So I think the Raiders are going to have a really tight game plan to win this game.
Like I was just saying, JT, goes back to really just 11-on-11 football. Everybody has their assignment. and they really have to do what they have to do to win their assignment, do their job. And I think when it comes to the Broncos defense, when you look at this team, they don't have a superstar, name-wise kind of defense. It's really, you have Patrick Surtain, and he's doing his thing, and he's, all-pro guy. Everyone else are just a bunch of guys who are just really good. You have Zach Allen, Jonathan Cooper, Cody Barton. You have a lot of guys on that defense that are just, they do their job, they're fundamentally sound, and they get the job done. And essentially, that's what the Raiders' offense is going to have to attack that with. You have to be very smart. You can't have these pre-snap penalties. You can't do anything to take yourself out of the game. Turnovers. You got to play your game plan to the best of your ability and worry about winning your assignment.
Always appreciate having you on Raiders Rundown. Thank you.
I appreciate it, JT. Thank you so much.
There he is, Levi Edwards. We appreciate him. Check out all of his work that you see at Raiders.com. Now, as we take a look at our Raider Nation radio lineup, we like to do this to remind you that we have a flagship radio station with the Morning Tailgate, the Rich Eisen Show, my show every day, noon to 2, and Unnecessary Roughness with Q Myers. And remember, you can listen at Raiders.com or on that Raiders mobile app, which is fantastic. Raiders mobile app is one of the great inventions that I've seen in modern Raider history. Wherever you are around the world, around the world. We got a lot of listeners that listen in Europe and around the country. They just are overseas. They just put on that app, they click on the radio, and they're able to listen in real time. It truly is fantastic. So that was a whirlwind. That was a fast hour. Antonio Pierce live. We got him walking in the studio, and we had Lincoln Kennedy, who's always fantastic, and Levi Edwards as we get rolling here. So what we're going to do the rest of the week is continue to preview this game, and then it's a big weekend in Las Vegas. We have Formula One, which is a monster. And that race goes on late Saturday night because they want the whole world to see it in real time. So it'll be interesting to see that going into the Raider game. But I wanted to get to this soundbite and audio from Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon, who we talk with on every Monday show on Raiders Roundtable. Here's what he had to say about Brock Bowers.
I'm not taking anything away from Scott. I think he did a nice job yesterday. But like you could get like some school kid off the street, and he could watch 3 or 4 games of the Raiders and look at this tight end and say, I'm just going to make sure that we find he's our best player right now, right? So when you think about it, it's not like it's rocket science. Let's figure out who the best players are. Let's figure out ways we can get the ball in space. But 13 catches yesterday, guys. That is that's most by a rookie tight end in a game in NFL history. I just it just seems like every week he's breaking another record. He's already got 70 catches in 10 games, 13 for $126 yesterday. He's phenomenal. I mean, the more I watch him, I mean, he's just he you know what he does a really good job of? He does a nice job changing speeds. He can come off the ball and then he can throttle, then he can accelerate. He can lull you to sleep. He does a great job creating separation. The other thing he does, he doesn't rush the route. He understands where he's at in the overall concept. So if he's number 1, he may come out of the break a little bit quicker. If he's on the backside and he's maybe the third receiver in the progression, he maybe take his time a little bit and set up the cover defender. So he's got just a really good feel for the passing game. He's got a really good feel for the type of coverage, whether it's man, whether it's zone. I think we're starting to see more teams try and bracket him and try and play him in and out, high and low. Eric, as you know, this guy is a real threat. And I think they're doing a much better job here, certainly over the last month, trying to get him more touches, especially early in games.
That's fantastic. I mean, you can watch and listen to Rich all day. You mentioned Eric Allen, who is named now a semifinalist for the Pro Football Hall of Fame, along with Steve Wisniewski. The modern-day players, a really big deal. Steve Wisniewski is one of the greatest guards to ever play for the Raiders in his era. He's now a semifinalist for the Hall of Fame. Wiz, all Raider fans love Steve Wisniewski for obvious reasons. He's the ultimate gentleman and one of the toughest football players I've ever seen play. He'll join me tomorrow on Raider Nation Radio. We're going to have a big discussion about this honor. But I wanted to close out this hour, but with my partner, Eric Allen. And I get emotional talking about Eric because I've known him a while, covered his career, know his wife and his kids. This is his moment. And Raider Nation, you get behind anyone who's a finalist or a semifinalist. Eric was a finalist last year, and reports are he got pretty close. He's got 54 career interceptions and 8 return for touchdowns. That is next level. Google Deion Sanders and all the favorite cornerbacks you think were better than Eric Allen, and then you'll see Eric's numbers and you'll be amazed. He was the ultimate teammate. He played in a different era where you had to go one-on-one. He played bump and run. But when he got his hands on the ball, he's one of the greatest weapons to ever play in his era. We got to get behind Eric Allen. I'm imploring everyone in the Raider Nation, Steve Wisniewski, and also Eric Allen. When you get this close, you've got to get over the finish line. And Eric, this is his year, I'm hoping. It would be nothing better for me and my family and Raider Nation to be in Canton, Ohio, when Eric Allen gets inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's long overdue. So I'm pulling for anyone who played for the Raiders for the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Those are two of the modern guys who I consider friends. Thanks for watching Raiders Rundown. We appreciate it.